Warning, the following video has flashing lights and also includes content that may be deemed inappropriate for some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Who dares awaken me from my slumber? Barbara Hartman, once again, you have made your way through the foggy, dark, and dense forest and into the fox den for this episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on StarFox Radio. This is the home and the stomping ground of the Midnight Society. Much better. Absolutely replenishing. I do feel my power sources fully charged. And now that Barbara has released my shackles and set me free, it is once again time for the Midnight Society to take a walk into the darkness.
Stood up. I said, oh my god, it's a werewolf. And everybody in the car freaked out.
My creatures of the night, yes, welcome back to another episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on StarFox Radio. This is the home and the stomping ground of the Midnight Society. Once again, we sit by the late night fire to burn the timber in an attempt to figure out what is occurring across the United States. And remember, we love the night. And the night loves us. The darkness is our friend. Tonight, we have Barbara Hartman. Yes, you should all know who she is. She is here all the time. And once again, sitting down with us with some really imperative information. Barb, how you been?
I've been good. How about you, Kenny?
You know how it is, just busy grinding, editing,
Yes.
and just trying to stay focused on stuff and crying myself to sleep with how bad the Bruins are doing. But hey, it's all good.
I'm sorry.
What you've been up to?
Just doing, as I told you, just doing a lot of traveling. But because Bigfoot and Sasquatch is my thing, I've been able to get some good research time in and some kind of like boots on the ground, investigating too. So it's been interesting.
This is great stuff. Would you like to tell the audience a little bit about your latest potential experience you had before we dive into some of the gnarly stuff?
Well, yeah, I found some really cool evidence in Pacific Beach, where we were in Washington State, and it's a northern beach, and again, Washington State on the coast, and we found some cool, it looked like it was structures that, yes, a human could build them, but the way that they were constructed and things that were woven in, like a lot of beach grass. And if like dunes, like beach dune grass, you are not supposed to touch it, mess with it. And there was so much of it that was kind of laid and weaved among these wood structures. And I don't really know, that wouldn't help a human, because it's not going to protect from the weather. So I don't know. That was interesting. And then we also found some pretty cool footprints, unfortunately, but this is just how it is when you're investigating Sasquatch. Many times you just find one footprint. you don't find a trackway. And I don't know if no one really knows if they're doing that on purpose. Are they somehow disguising their footprints, or, like getting rid of, I don't know, Kenny, but yeah, good stuff. And I also got some really good video, some actually strange video. I have to send you the one to see what you think. Because I'm not saying it's Sasquatch, but I don't know what it is. Just weird stuff. So, yeah.
That's great stuff right there. Heck yeah. No, send it over. And I mean, we do have
Yeah.
plenty of people at the North American Dogman Project that specialize in just any sort of animal vocalizations. I mean, I just focus on the Dogman topic, but our biologists and environmentalists, they're all into a lot of the other stuff as well.
Yeah.
And they'll definitely
Cool.
take a look at that for sure.
Yeah,
So
and this was I didn't get any vocal, no audio. It was visual, and so I'd love to have them take a look at it. I first thought I was sitting in the car. My husband was looking at a construction site, and I'm just sitting in the car because it's pouring rain. I mean, pouring so bad, and I thought, now it looked like someone was walking down a hill, and they had maybe like a bright green, like a fluorescent green kind of flowy, like what do they call, like one of those hooded things, to protect you from, people will wear like at amusement parks and stuff, to protect you from water rides. That's what I thought at first. But then it's like it caught sight of the car, and again, I'm thinking this is a person, and then it kind of like hid, and then it peeked out, and then hid again, peeked out, hid again. And I'm like, what is this person doing? Like, what the heck is going on? Then I thought, why am I not recording this? So I get out my phone, and I was able to get a little bit of video. So like I said, I'll send that over to you though. So
that's great stuff for sure. And to my audience, there is definitely a ton of stuff going on in the forest that you really should be aware of. And if you are not licensed to carry a weapon, I mean, I encourage everyone, you really should, if you're going to be out there by yourself. And I mean, especially if
absolutely,
maybe you're elderly or you have some sort of health issues, or I mean, even if you are a woman by yourself out there, like there's a lot of people that are documenting their whole existence.
particularly, yeah.
And this one girl, she just literally documents everything she does, but doesn't have a weapon out there. And I mean, she got her dog and stuff, but just like, the case we spoke about with that mysterious person coming into the campsite dressed in camo. Okay. I mean, there is scarier things out there than any animal and cryptid, meaning humans. Okay. At the end of the day, there is nothing that is more sinister, demonic, nefarious than human being activities. Okay. And sure, yes, an unknown entity is, spooky, but so is human sacrificing, which is prevalent throughout human history. So is occult rituals, cannibalism. I mean, this is all human behavior. Okay. So again, just be very aware when you're out there, because it might not be the grizzly bear that you need to really be paying attention to. It might be some psychotic individual that's literally stalked every one of your movements and knows the path that you go out and research on, and it's going to catch you in an area because they know you're not protected. So just make sure you're staying safe out there.
Yeah, and also, because we do, we have such a mental health crisis in the nation right now, and it's so sad. People just don't have, they don't have the ability or and there's not resources available. So I think it's a particularly dangerous time, to be, like you said, going out unprotected. So, but now I would normally agree with you as far as what you're saying, because we're the monsters, right? But man, when you hear this story that I have tonight, or this, it's not a story, this is facts. Now, what I'm gonna call this Jay's Dogman story, because I don't want to give any identifying information about this individual. I was able to see a post that he had made on Facebook, but it was just a brief post. I was contacted by his friend, who I'll refer to as Pat. And Pat reached out to me in hopes that I could share the story, and with the Dogman Project, with you and the Dogman Project, and perhaps gain some insight into what is going on in that area. small post that he made on Facebook was really, not much to work with. So she said, okay, she said, well, let me send you the messages back and forth, because they had a lot of text messages. And unfortunately, it wasn't in the chronological order that I believe that as it happened. So if Jay, ever does hear this, and Pat, I hope that I've done this justice, and I really apologize if there's something, that I'm getting wrong, and it's certainly not, with no intent. I just want to try to get this out here and see what people have to say, So Pat is very concerned because given the violent nature and the weird circumstances surrounding this, Jay has now removed himself from Facebook. He's removed himself from all social media. He will not respond to emails, and he won't respond to her phone calls and her text messages. So, like I said, she's just really, upset. So, now she said that Jay, because again, I don't like doing sharing accounts when I don't have the opportunity, to speak to the person that is actually involved in this. But Jay did say, and I read the text message that he said, I don't mind if you share this, if you share my story, because this is just so, kind of off the wall. And then, but again, because I don't have his expressed permission, I want to, leave it all like as anonymous as it can be. So I'll just kind of, this is really something. Now Jay is a pig farmer who lives in rural southwestern Virginia on a farm, and it's in a very, very remote area. The property borders the the state of North Carolina, and at the state line, there is really nothing but he called it Carolina deep forest. I'm not familiar with that, but that's what he, and then some of the other people I talked to said, oh yeah, it's, it's dense. It's dark. It is very heavily wooded on his property, and it's also surrounded by thick underbrush. So that makes it kind of hard to get through, in terms of ease of travel, Jay's closest neighbor on one side is 22 miles away, and in the other direction, his closest neighbor is almost 30 miles away. So he's really, he's really remote. The property is completely off grid. It doesn't have electricity because it's simply too far away from the main lines. They do have well water, but that's drawn by hand pumps. He runs some generators and whatnot, but for the most part, yeah, completely off grid. He does support himself. The farm is his livelihood. With the raising and selling of pigs. So it's how he feeds himself and supports his family. He lives on the farm with his wife and two children, a young boy, and then an even smaller girl, a little girl, his daughter. Now, after taking this account and, and trying to make it all make sense, I decided that I was going to kind of consult with a very well-respected boots-on-the-ground researcher that I'm good friends with in the cryptid field, just to have him weigh in on the claims that are being made, because they're really out there and they're really intense. The average person is going to find this hard to believe. So, but he confirmed that this particular area is very well known for the level of activity that is being claimed. I was also he put me in contact with a member of a cryptid organization team, who investigates in that area. And they did confirm that some of the creatures are just known to be very violent, dangerous, and aggressive. One of the researchers said he called the area just plain evil. And he kind of compared it to, the darker parts of LBL, the land between the lakes that we're familiar with. So let's go back to the first situation that this happened last summer. And I also wanted to stress through all this that he's very familiar with Sasquatch and has seen them for years and has never had a problem. And he also said other things, he didn't say cryptid, he said other things. So I don't know what exactly that meant. But he, again, has never had a problem with the Sasquatch that are around. But when what happened last summer, he and his brother, they thought that it was a rogue Bigfoot. And so just for, to explain to the audience, if you're not familiar, a rogue Bigfoot is one that has been kind of cast out of the clan, excommunicated due to not following the rules, because there are rules that the clan leaders will set forth, and they have to, all the members have to follow. The ones that usually violate the rules are, young young adult males, whatever, sowing their wild oats or whatever. And what happens is they have put the safety of the entire clan at risk, due to bad decisions. Maybe they're causing property damage. Maybe they've injured somebody. And also if they're challenging, the alpha male of the clan, that's all forbidden. So they're literally cast out. And, so then what do? They kind of just, continue to wreak havoc. And that was what Jay thought that he was probably dealing with. Now, prior to having to ask for his brother's help on this, Jay felt that he was more than equipped to handle whatever dangerous predator, may come his way. He's familiar with being, kind of independent and taking care of himself and his family. He owns several very large caliber weapons, including a Model 700 Remington sniper rifle. Now, Jay's brother is a retired veteran who spent 20 years as a special ops sniper. On a team. So he would he thought that the two of them joined up, that they could take care of what this terrible thing that Jay encountered. When he first encountered this, he said he called it a walking demon monster. He was so terrified. He said it literally, like, quote, scared the beep out of me, end quote. And he never believed that anything like this could exist. After he was able to wrap his head around what he had seen, he states that that's everything changed for him. And he quickly decided, hey, I got to get my brother involved in this, because I'm going to need his help to take this thing down, because, had no idea what he was dealing with. I also want to mention that he did consult with local law enforcement, reported it to them. They came out, he said they kind of took a look around, but he, quote, and this is a quote from him, they didn't do a damn thing. And they told him, we're not really sure what this thing is, but it's kind of like your problem to figure out, to deal with. I mean, if there's any sort of loss of life or injuries, then let us know. And Jay's like, well, thanks a lot, thanks for nothing. So he and his brother team up, and they tried to do a few things to kind of drive the creature out of the area, because it was wreaking havoc on the farm. It was causing all types of destruction. It was killing some of his livestock. So, with the law enforcement refusing to get involved, and his costs just escalating, and his loss, his monetary loss is just escalating. They're like, we got to get rid of this thing. So on the day that they, I guess they kind of knew where this thing was hanging out for the most part, they decided to go confront it. They, the two men, they'd armed themselves with AK-47s, and this creature started to charge them, and they were from, I think, a pretty great distance away. They're shooting at it, and it's charging at them. And he said they were literally hitting it. They shot to the point where they both had emptied their clips and had to reload. And this thing did not go down until one of them managed to hit the creature's forehead. And that's what took it down. That's what unalived it. And after they did successfully, unalive it, they were able to closely inspect it. And they also consulted with some local researchers. And now they feel that this creature was actually a gugway, which many researchers in the area refer to as a face eater. Now, according to cryptid, kind of lore, a gugway has the body structure of a Bigfoot, but they tend to have pointed ears and a snout. Some of the features are really, just messed up, and they're supposed to be hideous looking. They're usually solitary in nature, and they do not roam around, in packs. They stay solitary. I'm not even sure how they have if I don't know if there's a breeding population. I don't know. No people. I don't know. Maybe other people, but they are known to be extremely aggressive and dangerous. I did not get any information. He didn't provide any information as far as, what they did with the body or anything like that. So unfortunately, I can't, I have no idea. He clarified several times that this was not a regular Sasquatch, and he'd never had any issues with them. In fact, he told a short story of his little girl was 6 years old, and she was down by a pond on their property that she liked to play by, and she said she encountered what she called a stick man. And but she told him that the stick man was very nice, and and she just had a pleasant exchange. So I'm not really sure again. Oh, I'd love to talk to this guy. All right, so this brings us to the current set of events. Now, 2 weeks ago, and the 2 weeks that would have been from when this timeline started with the discussion back and forth. So what I'm thinking is actually it's probably more like a month now we're talking about. One of Jay's adult pigs went missing, and it completely disappeared out of its enclosure with no evidence that the pig had escaped. If they can break out of their pens, or their areas, but obviously you're going to see whether they can dig out or they can, just break the fence or whatever. But there was no evidence of that. The pig weighed 650 pounds. So a massive pig. And he was very puzzled and concerned as to what happened to it. How could a pig that size have been just lifted out of the fence, right? So 2 days after that, he was riding around on his property, and he found the pig, and he said down in a holler, and it was completely torn up. I mean, it was just, slashed and trashed, whatever. Now, about 2 months ago, we'll backtrack a little bit. Jay's son had a terrifying encounter with an animal that Jay believes now to be a dogman. And he's convinced that it showed up on his farm the day after a very bad storm, which is kind of bizarre because I've heard several reports that they will just show up when there's something going on in the area, like a hurricane or a tornado or storms, So overnight, this storm just raged on with repeated cloud to ground lightning striking many of the trees on his property. The wind was so strong it was ripping trees out of the ground, and the surrounding dirt, and it tore his home's roof to shreds, and it completely destroyed several of his outbuildings. He and his family were really convinced that they were either in the middle of a hurricane that they hadn't heard about, or possibly a tornado. So the very next morning, he and his son, they go out to work immediately, kind of shoring up the property, cleaning things up, repairing the roof to make the house livable, and repairs to the remaining outbuildings so they could secure the animals. Just kind of, they knew they had a lot of work ahead of them, but just, make these temporary repairs so they could live in the house and keep animals in these buildings and whatever other equipment. Now, Jay has so much admiration for his son, and he's very proud of him. Jay says that he's a very dependable and honest young man. He's very mature for his age. So Jay was really taken aback when his son came running out of the woods over to him, and he said, "Daddy, there's a wolf in the woods." And Jay knew that something was very wrong because of how his son was so terrified. He said it is not in this boy's nature to embellish anything. He's not dramatic about anything. Jay said, "What are you talking about, son?" And he said, "Daddy, the thing is standing on two legs and it's watching me. It's much taller than you. It's so big and it stinks really bad." He said it wasn't close to me, but I could smell it from where it was. And he said its eyes were glowing, and he thought that it had little horns sticking out of its head. His son went on, just continuing to describe the animal, and he said it had huge hands that looked like claws. His son admitted that it had scared him so bad that he had peed his pants. He was very, embarrassed by that. But his dad, Jay's like, that's fine, it's okay, and he's like, "Dad, I don't want to. I don't want to finish the rest of my chores by myself. And he said, it's okay, you know, go back, get cleaned up, you know, I'll help you later on. Now, in my opinion, I can only imagine how triggering his son's encounter must have been, right? Like, because it must have reminded him of the incident, you know, with his brother in the Gugway, and the two of them, you know, grown men, he had commented that they had actually both had you know, urinated themselves in terror. And so again, that's just my, you know, my kind of opinion, but I can just imagine, you know, your little boy's telling you this and he's like, wow. So now Jay had said in his exchange with Pat that since he's lived on the farm, he has seen many amazing and unexplainable things. He even mentioned a scary encounter that he said completely defies explanation. He's never told anyone about it, not even his wife, and he really refused to elaborate any further. So I'm not sure what that was about. I thought it was interesting, but yeah, he's not. Didn't want to talk about that. He refers to himself as like a strong, independent, you know, guy. Doesn't like to rely on anybody for anything. But he says this latest thing, this werewolf Dogman thing, made him understand what true fear is. So I'm like, really? Like, despite what you went through last year with this Gugway. But he said that just paled in comparison. He told Pat, not, you know, again, I didn't speak to him, told Pat that pales in comparison to this thing. He said this, quote, huge, stinking dog-faced man monster, unquote, that he says they're real, they are big, he cannot believe how large they are, and he feels they are the meanest things on the planet, and they will eat anything and everything, and he has seen evidence of that. Of course, Jay once again looked to his brother for guidance and assistance. His brother did a little bit of research and then sat down with him and revealed things to Jay that he had never shared before. He showed Jay a map of the eastern continental United States that had marks of every reported location of these dogmen. And they know every trail that these things take. They know things about these creatures that nobody knows about. And he says that, yes, they are tracking these things. They know that they exist. But, you know, who is they? Jay is not sure if it's the, you know, the G-men or other unknown special forces, but he believes that he definitely believes that they're involved with each other. He believes that these factions are experimenting with these things, these, you know, dogmen, and then they will release the dogmen out onto the general public to see how the public will deal with it. Through Jay's brother's connections, he was able to put Jay in touch with who Jay refers to as the Phantoms. Jay refused to go into detail about this group, except to say that he was made to sign a non-disclosure agreement limiting what he was able to reveal. He did clarify that the group told him they didn't care whether he told people or warned people or not, because they felt that, you know, most people wouldn't believe him anyway. But he was specifically forbidden to release any sort of physical evidence or otherwise that would prove that this entire situation truly happened, because he said there was a lot of physical evidence. He says that once the Phantoms got involved and he signed the agreement, it became such a huge deal. He was like just so like wowed by it. He states that they came to his property, they seized all of his evidence and equipment, including pictures, videos, cameras, game cameras, infrared cameras, and he had a bunch of night vision equipment. They took all of that and you know, any documentation at all. But again, this was as part of the agreement that they had made, that they were going to handle this creature for him. So as Jay puts it, they took every shred of evidence that he had. He said it was all handled very, very professional. It was very covert. It was very secretive. They came in with helicopters and with special trucks and with teams of men. Everything that the Phantom Squad used was all black, no markings, no identifications. They literally closed down the entire area surrounding and including his farm. They evacuated his family and his animals, and they removed all of his livestock from the farm and put them up, in a secure area. But they said, you're not allowed to return until we tell you. So after about 2 weeks, he was contacted, and his family, animals, and livestock, they were all then made arrangements, to move everybody back onto the farm, and life went on. And Jay states that it was like as if nothing happened, which I feel like it seemed like that was kind of disturbing to him. He claims to have lost thousands of dollars in livestock while this Dogman was around. He's concerned that there will be more to come as their food sources become more scarce. But the Phantom Squad told him that the situation had been secured and there will be no more incidents with this thing, and that the problem had been, eradicated. Now, Jay said in his research since then, he has learned that there are about 77,000 of these dogmen that are tagged and tracked, possibly even more. Whether it's, the G-Men or the military or whomever, is not telling how many have already been eliminated, but he said these things are very real. They are flesh and blood animals that are mating, multiplying, and again, they're extremely dangerous. Jay feels lucky that he and his family really just barely escaped with their lives. Now, in the latest exchange, and in the latest and last exchange of communication, Jay told his friend Pat that there was an emergency situation at his farm and that a large portion of the fence had been ripped out of the ground. So, this obviously just put the whole family in his tailspin. His wife took the children and left. She wanted him to come. He refused. He said, I got to take care of this. Caused a big issue. And he decided that he was going to go public with all of this, and he posted on several social media pages because he really didn't know what to do. He said he needed to get it off of his chest. He was hoping to gain clarity and understanding. He's very relieved that the initial problem had been supposedly dealt with and disposed of, but the fact that he has been told nothing from the Phantoms about what went on during those 2 weeks, he's kind of now left with a feeling of that he's kind of losing his mind along with everything else, and he doesn't have any definitive evidence that this is another Dogman. So he said he wasn't sure what he was going to do, and then that was it. And then all of a sudden, he no longer is answering calls. She believes that he has blocked her. He's not answering emails. And he's removed himself from social media. So that's where we're at, and that's really the end of all the information that I was given. So, what do you think about that? Oh,
yeah, definitely some pretty interesting and gnarly stuff right there. And thanks for sharing all that. And I have a few things to chime in on with that before we let you get back to your busy schedule for sure. And one of the things I wanted to potentially tie into that is, so we tend to believe here at the North American Dogman Project that Gugways are the baboon versions of dogmen that people report.
Whoa,
And
yeah. Oh my
yeah,
God.
so
I
what
never
I
thought
would,
of that because Kenny, you've told me that before, and I never thought of that. Wow. Okay, go ahead.
yes,
That just
so,
blew my mind. I forgot
and
about that.
what I potentially would like to know about some of those sightings as well is that giant baboons, such as the Dinopithecus, that supposedly only went extinct around 11,000, 10,000 years ago,
Mhm.
and also is believed to still be existing in remote areas of South Africa, and also believed to have come up on the land bridge as well. Well, giant baboons do have tails. That would be something I would like to potentially try to find some more information on. But they
Yeah.
do yellow baboons as well, pointy ears, glowing eyes. Baboons can look extremely disgusting. They stink
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they also eat the faces of babies
Oh
over in
my
India as well,
gosh.
and other animals. They start with that first, meaning because that's where the majority of the nutrients are. It's
Yeah.
inside of the eyes, the brain, etc.
Whoa.
And there's a video of a female baboon literally freshly giving birth, and this male one just reaches over, takes, and starts eating its face.
Oh
And
no, that's
yes, so there you go, with the term face eater
yeah.
right there. And
Yeah. See
I
that? I
think
didn't know
that,
that.
yeah, might
Bizarre.
tie a little bit into some
Yeah.
of the stuff that's occurring. And
Mm-hmm.
also, I personally believe, so do others, that the cynocephali, the things that were around in 290 BC with the Greeks and the Romans, we've talked about this so many times, are the dogmen. Okay, they are,
Uh-huh.
yes, physical beings, and Herodotus said that they are great to have on your side and also great to go against because they will kick the crap out of you, but they can be unalived. But the interesting
Mm-hmm.
thing is with them as well, they would always take the deceased bodies of fallen soldiers off the field to consume them. But according to Herodotus and Ctesias, they didn't go out of their way necessarily to try to consume human beings, but they would consume the
Mm-hmm.
fallen, which is
Oh,
interesting right there.
yeah.
And the lack of food source, I don't really tend to fall into that, I guess, because according to the Cynocephali and Alexander the Great and all them, they ate vegetables, animals, all kinds of things, more or less, and
Uh-huh.
grew their own crops. So, I mean, sure, yeah, if the world, humans are potentially struggling in some areas, I understand that. But I mean, I don't think that these things by any chance are starving. And
Oh,
also,
okay. Yeah.
we do have a hypothesis that we would like to turn into a theory that the Cynocephali had a great civilization, just like every other, human-based civilization, but they fell more or less, just like the Egyptians and the Greeks and the Romans. So now they're going to be in smaller numbers and
Yeah.
spread out more. But yeah, that would all kind of tie into what we say, we believe is the dog man. And what is interesting too is animals you can look into. I can't remember the exact terminology, but there's humans too that have had this mutation where you get a little like stubby looking horn things. So
Oh,
it
yeah. Oh,
could
wow.
just be a mutation more or less
Mm-hmm.
that one happened to have had, because like I said,
Yeah.
there's a ton of animals that aren't supposed to have horns that have had like strange mutations like that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that is something that's really interesting. And then one of the other things too, I have two more things I'd like to touch on real quick, is when, that's a big pig for sure, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
it also isn't that big in comparison to some of the ones we've had up to 1,200 pounds people say go
Whoa.
missing.
Wow.
And it's pretty, I guess, cut and dry here. What happened? Leaps over, easy, baboons, anything, hop over, boom,
Mm-hmm.
grab the pig, you hop back over. That would
Yeah.
explain the lack of destruction, the lack
Right.
of anything, because
Mm-hmm.
yeah, once you compromise the pig, pick it up, you
Yep.
hop over. So I think that would, fall into line with why there wouldn't have been damage, because, we have reports of up to 1,200-pound animals
Wow. Yeah.
going
Okay.
missing like
That's
that.
yeah.
Yeah, 600-pound one is
Mhm.
obviously
Not like
big, but
nothing. Yeah.
it's not like as big as those ones. And
Yeah.
what always makes me really interested, I mean, all this is, but when people say these units, I guess, come and talk to them. It always makes me wonder, though, because rest in peace, Linda Godfrey, huge fan of her. As far as I know, none of these secret organizations ever came to speak to her or take her information. I mean, she's the GOAT when it comes to the
Uh-huh.
dog man and stuff. I mean, this
Yeah.
lady had everything. And what about Jody? I mean, same thing. He's the GOAT, too. I mean, he's
Yeah.
been doing this since 2021. He's one of my best friends. I mean, he doesn't tell me everything, but as far as I know, he's never had any people decked out in black or secret
Yeah.
organizations coming to compromise all his stuff. I mean, what about people like you and I? I mean, I literally just sit here and cover the Dogman
Yeah.
topic, right? That's
Yeah.
that's all I do. I
Yeah.
wear color in my hair. I put all my information out to the world.
Mm-hmm.
I have science on my team. I
Yeah.
mean, never had anything like that. I've never had aliens
Yeah.
show up at my door. I've never had any
Right.
sort of special unit. I'm not saying these
Yeah.
things don't occur, but it just
Yeah.
makes me wonder why, when there's plenty of other people out there with a ton of information that haven't had, like, say, an interaction like that, it just
Yeah.
would make me wonder, I guess, what would keep us safe from that, but then make somebody else susceptible to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I'm, as far as that goes, what was I gonna say? Like, if because this guy through his brother was able to reach out to them, and is that what like they're not just going to come.
That would make sense then. Like you
Right,
said,
right,
if
right.
you initially
Yeah,
made the, like, hey,
right.
the reach out, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
that's fine because I'm not even sure if I made that clear because it's just like I said, there was so much information and I flew from Washington State to Philadelphia and it literally took me like the whole plane ride, like almost 5 hours to go through this. And I'm like, I hope this isn't going to be like a 3-hour show, but it wasn't. I was able to,
that's
trim
awesome.
things down.
No, that's
So,
all great stuff, and
yeah.
I do always appreciate you stopping
Yeah,
in. And
I
one of the last
love,
things too with the
yeah,
cynocephaly is, again, as far as I know, obviously, I didn't get a chance to sit down with Cetzius and Herodotus and Alexander the
yeah,
Great. Okay, I'm just going
yeah,
from what they documented, but
mhm,
again, they said it looked canine-ish, but no
yeah,
one took its DNA. So if someone was
mhm,
to say have getting a chance to get the DNA from a cynocephaly, would it even come back as canine? Okay,
right,
so
true,
that just really falls into line with, again, today when people just automatically assume something has to be canine because it looks canine. I mean, we've gone
yeah,
over that numerous times,
yep,
and
yep,
it doesn't have to be that, but it's
mhm,
just super interesting because, they definitely didn't speak of these things being paranormal based. I mean, they lived up in the mountains, in the
mhm,
caves, and came down. I mean, they made their armor, they bought armor, they traded armor, they were unalived, they unalived people back. I mean,
yeah,
these seems pretty physical to me, seems pretty
mhm, yeah,
existing. Like, I mean, if you're coming down from the mountains and trading me things and wearing animal skins and also regular human clothing and such, well, yeah, it's definitely something that needs to, be dove into a little bit more.
yeah,
And that makes the sense of the physical aspect right there. Okay.
right,
Because those things, if they weren't physical and it was just a manifestation, sure, again, I don't know the most about that, but a manifestation, yeah, can leave tracks and make noises and speak to you, etc. But
uh-huh,
as far as I know, it can't physically hand you something that you can then put on. Meaning, if it was the cynocephali were just spirits and things, then how the
yeah,
heck did they trade a sword with Alexander the Great? And then he, like, feels them, their furriness as he hands them
yeah,
back like a,
right,
robe or something.
yeah.
That's all. That's all. So
And why
it's,
would they even need to do any of that,
yeah, there's
right?
no portal bases or no
Mhm,
sort of really magic with mentioned with the cynocephaly. More or less, they were just badass warriors, and they were canine looking ish, and they lived up in the
yeah,
mountains. And same thing with the
yeah,
non-Native American, but actually India, the country, speaks of it as well. So yeah, these aren't something that they said came out of a portal. They literally watched as they came to their village from their trips in the mountains.
mhm,
So
mhm.
if it was something paranormal based, instead of walking through all the mountains, don't you think it would have just hit a portal and came to their village and
Right,
popped out,
right,
right?
exactly, exactly. Why would it go through all that trouble and again, to
Yeah,
be trading and wearing furs and no, that wouldn't be necessary if
none
it
of
could
that
just
would be. Yes.
right.
So it's super interesting. And I just always appreciate sitting down with you and hearing interesting stuff like that because it's all tied in to an extent somehow. But I mean, there's definitely some, important variations and differences that
Yeah.
need to get out there, to the
Hmm.
public. But
Yeah.
every time you come in, you always have great stuff. I mean, I love all my
Thank
hosts, but some of my
you.
hosts, don't really necessarily know the most about the topic. So I always, I'm the one kind of, speaking about what's going on. But some of my other hosts, like you and Jessica Jones and everyone else part of the Midnight Society, y'all come like rolling in with like your own information you want to come talk about. And it's absolutely excellent because I mean, I have so much
Thank you.
stuff to speak about, which is fine. And I can pull up
Yeah.
stuff. I have no problem with that at all. But it's
Mhm.
great because y'all end up teaching me a lot of stuff that I haven't heard before. Whereas if I'm
Mm.
tackling the topic, I've obviously tackled it before. So it's not
Yeah.
that it's not cool. And I mean, I'm sharing information with other people, but I like to learn more than I like to. I mean, I love sharing, but I would rather
Yeah.
learn than share information, if that
Yeah.
makes
Right.
sense. If I
Right.
had a
Yeah.
choice of do you want to
Yeah.
talk about stuff or do you want to learn? I want to
Yeah.
learn.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I've learned so much too. I mean, these things that you brought up, like, oh my gosh, that's right. Like with the Gugway and
Hmm.
you think and I'm going to have to tell Pat that, I hope that this guy gets back in contact, but I did say to her, who knows if this thing has returned, maybe he's working with the phantoms and he's not going to be able to, let's just hope that, that's the case. And it is good if there are things like this out there, it's good that there is some sort of agency or whatever that you can count on, because, if you to have local law enforcement, like, well, we're not really sure, and you have big enough guns to take care of it, so like, okay, thank you.
Right. No, for sure.
Yeah.
That is so
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
thanks again for
of
sitting down with us
course.
tonight, my friend, and diving
Of course.
into this topic. And to the audience, yes, Barb has to go, and she will be back very soon.
Yep.
And as we conclude our meeting with the Midnight Society, just remember, stay safe out there. But most importantly, just be good people, everybody. No matter what, just try to go out of your way and just do good things. I mean, you will be amazed with the good vibes and just the actual encouragement you get back. And then you'll notice that good things happen. So, it's really something that was shared to me. Actually, long story short, there was a movie that was based off a true story of I believe he was 12 years old. He unfortunately got hit in a car accident and was unalived. But this kid was able to come up with the whole concept of paying it forward. He was pretty much the one that
Oh, such a
just
great.
going out of his way to make sure to do nice stuff for people. So to everybody out there, I promise you, pay it forward. And I mean, the world could definitely use some kindness. So just be good people, stay safe out there, and I will talk to you all soon. If you have made it this far in this episode, you truly are a legend. And we do appreciate all your support. If you did enjoy this video, please like, subscribe, comment, and share it. Feed the algorithm. And I will catch you very soon.